not possible.
Awesome. All right. We have 19 minutes to find out all the amazing conversations that everybody had. So I did number these so we can go in order. And we're just going to go ahead and dive right in. So Jeff Sample, are you there? Can you kick us off with what you guys talked about in AEC tech sales?
I am, and it went a little different than we thought, actually. You know, there was a lot that we thought going into it, but coming out of it, a lot of what I think a lot of us in the industry already know was, you know, this is not a hard sale business. This is more of a trust and relationship building business. And in fact, it was pretty much flat out said, I think, Alan, you said it, that, you know, sometimes you'll move from one product to another when a person that you know moves from that product to another, depending on their your allegiance to them. But that there's a lot of a misunderstanding in the world about trying software out and how much time people actually have the ability to try that software out, and what's a realistic time frame, and how people have found ways to get around that. And also about kind of understanding, and like any relationship, you have to understand how that relationship works. And so there's ways to transgress it and by trying to circumvent it, et cetera. And those things don't work very well. But that there's some ways, you know, for both sides to keep each other honest when it comes to, you know, trying out software, but meeting regularly to follow up and connect, even if that means it ends. And, you know, I think it was interesting to me that a couple people talked about ending their relationships. And I think that's important from the software side. Like, we need to know when it's over. Then, you know, we brought it up, software cannibalizing the good people from the industry and why that might be happening. There was some mixed feelings about why, but mainly that, you know, the software industry does need those construction industry people to maintain relevance, et cetera.
I think we found our next topic, software cannibalizing industry.
It is an interesting one. And
yeah. Anything to wrap up and then we'll keep going.
And then, you know, some of the reasons why they're struggling to sell the software to the rest of the organization, all things we've heard before. But then, you know, how do you know you're not going to fall on your face versus, you know, you're really going to see it? And sometimes the ones you predict you're going to see it, the return, you don't. And the ones you didn't see coming, you do get the return on them. So that, I hope, Alan, that I covered it all there. If not, throw the last things in. I got a minute left, I think.
Did good.
You good? All right, good. And actually, I shortened it a minute. We're 2 minutes now instead of 3, so you're a little over. But it's okay. It's okay. I forgive you. You went first. Let's keep going. Aaron, the been there, done that. I sat in that one for a while. That was fun. What did you talk about?
Yeah, we had a really good conversation. Paul brought up some really interesting points about the categorization of BIM and data. A new announcement moving to master format to uniformat. You know, because of the increasing complexity with models and data, one of the things I heard Ralph say at the end was that, you know, for the last 20 or 30 years, we've been incrementally trying to change the industry rather than truly disrupting it. And in order to we've been adding more and more complexity to the problem and more software instead of removing things. And so we thought that was really interesting. Carl said that one of the things that CPC can do is really stop preaching to the choir and try to get out there in front of more owners to do the best job we can of educating the industry about what we can do as a group and an organization with CPC.
And if you talk to Rob Fisher, Construction Users Roundtable, I know he had to jump, but you know, they want that stuff. You know, they're craving. And I snickered when I heard them in the room saying, like, man, we really need more software guys in here. I'm like, no, you don't. but they do, right? You know, if they haven't heard them before, we need more of that. Yeah, connect. And I definitely love the getting out of the echo chamber. That's a great point.
Well, more unified software and you know, software that talks to and plays nicely with everything. That's where
Yeah, and that it's not going to be one consolidated, everybody aligns to one thing, but it's the whole power of technology. And a lot of what that either the Open API Open CD initiative or this work with CSI is about, it can be uniform or master format as long as you've made those connections. And that's where technology really can help us, but we have to understand, how to use that and the requirements and everything.
That's right.
Awesome. Cool. So yeah, the great discussion there. I know there's going to be, a lot of spin-offs from that one for future discussions, but let's keep her going. Connor, do you want to talk about the, how we were translating BIM from vertical to horizontal? If you're there, you might be muted. And yeah, I see.
Yep, I'm here. Sorry, mute had me.
Go ahead, Connor.
I'll go ahead and roll through these. The first thing were just kind of some general issues that we talked about in terms of horizontal and vertical. One being that vertical programs are further ahead in terms of what they can do, except for the fact that they aren't very good at modeling horizontal geometry. We continue to have geospatial issues, particularly on long projects like horizontal ones. A lot of the programs were not designed to handle, 10, 40, 80 mile long projects, and it really weirds them out. We find that multiple products are typically necessary when working on a horizontal project that might have some vertical in there as well, that the interoperability issues between these different products is still an issue. We discussed that currently models are not being delivered in horizontal work and talked about what some of those roadblocks might be. I think when we talked about what a solution might be to any of those roadblocks, contract type, design build, TMGC, having those type of contracts really help in the horizontal world in terms of its inclusion of BIM. We discussed where people are seeing, what are they seeing in terms of enhancements on interoperability issues. And what we did discuss is that there's been some consolidation in software stacks, and in those software stacks, they've been trying to grow in a way that allows them to include more infrastructure projects. We've seen that in Autodesk and Nemetschek and Bentley, but we still are not seeing very good cross-stack workflows. And last but not least, we just brought up issues with standards, mostly to fall on the idea that our obsession with very particular terms are still an issue for communicating when it comes to standards, particularly between vertical and horizontal world.
I'm sure there are plenty of TLAs and what are four-letter acronyms, FLAs being thrown around. Awesome. Oh, where'd I go? So next up, number 4 is, mental health and construction. Sasha, very excited to learn what you guys talked about with Cal and Darcy, everyone.
Yeah, I think I'll speak for our group. There's about 11 or 12 of us in the group, and I think I'll speak for the group that it was a great space that was created to talk about a topic that I don't think gets enough airtime in this industry, but each of us who are involved very well understand how stressful this industry is. More so if you're in the field, but nonetheless, construction as an occupation has a lot of stressors around it. So today we wanted to have 2 experts guide and kick off our conversation. And thank you so much to Cal and Darcy for being available to us to speak to this. And we talked about constructions as it relates to suicide in industries in the US, and we have the 2nd highest rate of suicide in the industry, so as an industry. So I think it kind of gives great context to the fact of why this needs to be a conversation. We talked and asked a question of everyone in the room really around, where does mental health belong in construction? Is this something that should be a part of HR? Should this be part of safety, a safety component? Should this be owned by legal? And we polled the audience, and I will say that they changed my mind. I had a very specific opinion about this, but actually where we landed was that it should start with leadership, and then you should have a task force that is made up of HR, legal, there should be a safety focus on it, and much like you evaluate, are you wearing gloves? Do you have proper eye protection? Are you wearing the right footwear? Is also what is your mental state today? Have you been using any substances that are going to impair your ability to show up at the job? As just the start of that conversation in construction around mental health. And then we also had our experts provided numerous resources that will have links that we'll actually be able to put in the notes from today. And Chad Pearson from Plexus then offered us a really great deep dive into specific curriculum that he teaches. In addition to his job, he's also training MMA fighters. And this idea of your physical body and showing up to the job site, being an elite athlete, is something that he leverages in how he helps construction workers in the field deal with emotions, the stressors of the job. And so I think the fact that we could look at our field workers as elite athletes is an amazing way to create some awareness around mental health, and how you show up at the job site physically and mentally 100% impacts the safety of that job. So I want to say thank you to everyone who showed up in the room. Everyone was able to share some stories, and we have, again, we have some resources that we'll be happy to share, and I hope it's the first of many combos.
Yeah, I think we're gonna have to continue a whole mental health psychology kind of track of just understanding that whole important component in all this, because we keep saying it's culture, we keep saying it's about people, and so let's actually learn about it. That's awesome. Thank you, Sasha.
Yep.
Next up, we have number 5 is productivity hacks. So Bianca or Lil,
Yeah.
want to talk about what you guys talk about?
Yeah. Let me jump in. And the truth about productivity is that we can't do it all. So we have to choose to do the best things, day to day. So one of the things we talked about is, having the right mindset and really starting to look at, what are some of the hacks that we can start to incorporate our day to day. We have to make the choice, to do the, focus on things that matter. We have to make the choice to be present. But I think I want to kind of share some of the hacks that the group shared. I'm going to start with my favorite one that kind of took the cake for me this was from Miles from Porcor. No agenda, no attenda. So he really just talked about, just being mindful of, those virtual meetings or meetings. If this can this be in an email, it gives a lot of clarity into, why you're meeting. So I think, the no agenda, no attenda. So if anything, that's my favorite one of the day. Troy talked about a recommendation of the power of habit, keeping a schedule. That's another thing that was said throughout the group, that when we have a schedule and we are mindful, of how we're spending the time. And Sarah also added to that she, has also tried to learn what time of the day is she most productive. I know for me personally, it's in the morning. Afternoon, it's kind of like a downhill hill for me. And the other things we kind of just chatted in the room was, sort of the generational, we talk about millennials, sort of feeling entitled, and we talked about, could they have it right? The fact that they are very focused on having that work-life balance, that's something that I'm personally jealous of. And then we kind of ended up our session with, what would a work day, a 4-day work week look like? And Amarita joined the conversation with, what about, adopting some of the agile methodologies where, you focus on, the work that gets done, and the rest of the time you can focus on, development or doing other things, or, why do we have to have this mentality of 8 to 5? Why does that exist? So that was sort of a challenge among the group. Another thing, as we were talking through that, Miles jumped in and said, building a culture of norms. And that's something where we're so used to thinking, we have to be productive, do, and we have to work 8 to 5, but we're definitely in a time in our life really where we're starting to see that change of the norms happening. So it starts by having these conversations. Bianca, do you want to go ahead and add anything to this conversation?
I think that was a great summary. Yeah, I think you covered everything.
I love it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Results, or was it results-oriented work environment is a lot of that. Yeah. It's less about butts and seats and more about, just getting things done. And I love, how this is almost kind of forcing us to live in that sort of world. But it's a give and take, right? It's a two-edged sword. Awesome. Yeah, definitely more to come on those topics in future months. But moving on, and actually, because I know we have 4 minutes left before we're at the top of the hour. If anyone in our last 4 groups has to run before the top of the hour, let me know now. But otherwise, we'll just keep going through our groups, and we'll be maybe 5 minutes long. So since I didn't hear from anyone, let's just go to Dustin and Reality Capture, Dustin and Bree, who, by the way, are not related. Same last name, not related. we had to clarify that earlier.
Has been made abundantly clear.
Go ahead, Dustin.
Yeah, we had a really great, I'll keep it short, but we had a great conversation, kind of drilling down into, so we have initiative 4, which is the reality capture lifecycle. This is something that Nathan and I have been talking about for a couple of months, drilling down into, which is what are the right tools for the right job, and
Actually,
the pros and cons.
Can you pull up that graphic, either you or Bree? So folks
I have it. I can share it real quick.
Yeah.
I think
what you guys are working on. I thought it was cool.
And we made a lot of adjustments based on this conversation, which, we started with basically this funnel here on the left, and short definitions of each one of these, and we actually pulled some stuff out, but it is essentially the differences between your standard simple 2D imagery going all the way through making it some sort of post-processed imagery, then targeted laser scanning, so like LiDAR and potentially imagery, but a LiDAR scanner, and then like a baseline scan, and just starting to drill down into, the pros and cons, whether it's cost, portability, the utility of it. And we adjusted some of those descriptions. The pros and the cons are advantages and disadvantages. We identified a lot of different, not necessarily individual technologies, but the advantages over other types of field data capture, whether it's just the standard imagery versus a LiDAR type of imagery. There's a lot of words here to start helping, I think, the intermediate or the owners understand that there's a lot of new tools available right now, and there's nuances, and where do each one of those tools, which we didn't quite get to, I think that's further down the line, like which tool fits into this puzzle here to get the most bang for your buck, really. It's not you don't just have like a very simple imagery or like very complex LiDAR option now. There's a lot of great technology in between those two.
That's awesome.
I think what some of the discussion highlighted, Dustin, was that there is a lot of nuances, and we have a lot of our customers, clients want to try and oversimplify this stuff. I feel in a lot of cases it's a mistake. Like we need to kind of get a better understanding of what all this is. And once you do, you'll have all these different tools at your fingertips, and we can use the right one for the right application.
Yeah. Josh, remember we talked about that concept of like a reality capture matrix like 2 years ago?
Yeah.
Finally getting around to it.
Finally starting to put pen to paper.
Yeah, great job, everyone. Yeah, that's we'll have to package that into a blog post. And really, that's the partnership with USIBD, and those are all the communications that we want to partner together and get that message out. So thank you guys both. Excited to see where that continues on. But let's keep going. So next up, Travis and Adam talked about separating our M, E, and P and all the other acronyms for our utilities. But Travis, go ahead and take it away.
Yeah, this was actually a pretty easy discussion when we were talking about what the differences are and everything. And I think that it shouldn't be no surprise that we're much more similar than we assumed. Adam was pointing out how electrical, they get schematic drawings and they spend a lot of time getting down to the detail, and it's not all that different from what we do in the mechanical side. Their drawings are a little bit more basic when they get them from like an engineer or whatnot, but we still all have to kind of go through the process of taking what is the design concept and getting it into something that's constructible. In some of that stuff, we were talking a little bit about coordination requirements, these challenges in getting people and everything like that. So again, we were very, very similar in a lot of ways. And we on the mechanical end may be a little further along than the electrical end, and when it comes to prefab, but they're much further along when it comes to kitting. So we have a lot of opportunities to learn from each other. And one of your questions then at that we kind of kicked around quite a bit was how do we leverage that? How do we generate, some disruptions and synergy? And Nathan, this is a common theme that you see when you talk to me, and we talked about it when we were in Phoenix and stuff, is finding ways to partner with these utility trades, partner together and get involved in projects earlier. Especially, we want to do the stuff that Josh likes to talk about with DFMAs. We have to take these relationships where traditionally between the M and the E particular, they're sometimes combative when it comes to coordination and finding room for our space, and flip those into more partnerships where we're working together to drive this sort of change, so we can really actually start doing this multi-trade type stuff.
So electricals from Venus and mechanicals from Mars.
Exactly. Yeah.
Awesome.
I was going to throw one out there too. We talked about software not talking to each other. We talked about that quite a bit as well. So I think that's a common problem throughout everything.
Well, yeah, I mean, and again, Evolve was really one of the main reasons, because they have such a focus of, what Adam's doing with electrical, what Brett's doing with mechanical. And obviously I have to imagine they're seeing overlaps. I'm like, wait a minute, why aren't you guys doing this togetger? But there's a lot more to unpack as far as why they're not actually doing it the way they
And we did try to make sure that Paul felt welcome, because he was definitely the lone GC sitting there among.
He's hopefully the one getting you out of groupthink, right? Because otherwise we're just back in our circles again.
No, he did a great job with that.
Yeah, we intentionally tried to curate and make sure, and hopefully everybody knew, why they were maybe the odd person out in the group, because we want that perspective to go, wait a minute, that doesn't make any sense to me, because it needs to make sense to them. But awesome. Okay, we'll keep going then. So the surety bond conversation and project surety bonds with Dennis and Dixon. Dennis, you want to give a quick highlight of what you talked about?
Yep. Be more than happy to. So it's interesting you mentioned the lone GC in that group. Well, we had actually 2 GCs in our group, and it was fabulous having them provide different insights and challenging us a little bit in a variety of areas. But I left the conversation with we've got really 2 issues here. We got a problem with timing. There, in the old days, someone was talking about we used to send stuff through the mail. Then we moved to fax, and then we moved to sending attachments in email. And the problem was the expectation that since I'm doing it by email, I can wait to the last day to get it in, and they'll be able to return return a response. But the reality of it is that email wasn't any better than the fax or the paper, because it was all analog for all intents and purposes. So getting data so decisions can be made and getting the timing in place was a critical area. So with that, then we get into this whole discussion is what comes first, the egg or the chicken? And the reason I kind of use that analogy, because I think we did agree, including the contractor, Adam, that said, if there was an ability to do an electronic bid and press a button, and we were able to do that with subs, kind of all our subs in the whole bid bond area, that would be great. We would support it, we'd love it. But in order to get to that, we've got to get through this pre-qualification of the sub by the surety, say, they have a good program in place, and we would get them that bond. So we've got this pre-qual before the electronic bid. But before they can do that, of course, they've got to make sure they're getting accurate financials, WIP statements, and getting timely data so they could make the decisions ahead of time. So we got a little bit of a problem there. And then Adam really jumped on the bandwagon and saying, well, it all starts with getting good solid WIP statements and getting that in place. And he said, we're not there yet. And as an industry, we are a bit fragmented in bringing together the operations and the accounting groups together to get those WIP statements prepared in time so we can get them sent off, et cetera, et cetera. So, bottom line, and then we talk through all that, and then we end up with, once the contracts are in place, or the bids are the bonds are in place, we then have the problem of monitoring them to see if there's any problems, which kind of gets into this whole pay up area and other relevant data around the pay app. So, you know, I think one of the big takeaways, there's a lot of work here. There's a lot of opportunity here, and Adam really was great on saying, you know, if we can solve this problem, it definitely helps the whole construction community. And that was one of the first times I've heard that from a contractor. So that was kind of encouraging to hear that he saw the bigger picture and he was able to realize that, you know, if they could do their part by getting the WIP statements done faster, then that's just one little thing that they can help with. But we've got to solve the overall big picture.
Yeah, well, it always comes back to WIP, right, Dennis? And for those in the BIM world, you know, 5D to me is WIP. Like, you know, doing WIP the way that we're talking about, you're doing 5D as well. And so again, we'll figure out, you know, how to connect all those dots. And thank you, Adam, for answering all those questions. I'm sure that was stressful. Because I know I can't answer them half the time. But yeah, always really educational as we get into the surety side of the world and understand that whole side. But let's wrap up with our last one here on the ICP, Integrated Collaboration Platform. So Satyam, you want to kick it off?
So he had to
he had to run. Okay, so yeah, Brett, you're going to take us over then. What'd you guys talk about, Brett?
So really, as with a lot of conversations about this idea of everyone being integrated and having all data accessible on a platform, you go down two routes of thinking, two major hurdles, right? The first one is consumability, right? Can you have a platform to where everyone can consume it and you just don't have 5 to 10% of a project or a company or whatever you're working on consuming this high level data and then having, you know, 80% in the dark. So a lot of it was about training, adoption, but the other part of the conversation, somewhere we commonly go with this conversation, is how contracts themselves can get in the way of actually taking full advantage of a fully collaborative platform and being able to push productivity curves of certain aspects of construction or design into other processes to shorten the cycle of how long it takes to actually produce this content. So the conversation was really, really good. It was pretty common topics that we talk about, right? We had two large GCs in the room with us, as well as a few of my team. And really it came down to, you know, change. How do you, you know, basically get adoption among people that need to be part of this new platform, because we're making an effort, multiple companies are making efforts to make this more accessible, but there has to be a meet in the middle, right? So getting people involved, getting people excited to actually consume it in a format that doesn't take too much away from what their actual job duties are, but also getting people to understand how to crunch these processes together and work in a cohesive environment and not feel like you're being taken advantage of based on your scope of work, right? Like one of the conversations we had was, you know, why don't we do more coordination and design? Well, if you go look at a lot of architects and engineers contracts, I think that they would be able to easily show you why they're not doing that. And it's because they're not being paid for it. So, you know, there's a lot of different aspects that go into making an ICP valuable, and we see a lot of that value in design build, IPD, integrated project delivery projects, because those contracts are set up to facilitate it, and because they're planned in a way that everyone is supposed to be involved, and that's a requirement. We think there's a good place for this in design bid build, but it would mean writing those contracts differently to change the scopes of those different aspects. And that was really what that conversation was a lot about.
So in contrast to that common data environment, it's not a replacement. It's almost like a layer that goes on top of it, right? Like you could have it and then have ICP, or you could not have a CDE and have some level, you know, minimal level of an ICP.
And I'll try to be really quick, but the way I explained it is this, is the CDE is a bucket of data, right? But when you reach into that bucket and you pull a piece of data out, what do you do with it? You usually silo it off in some process that only you or a few people know about. When you're done with it, you put it back in the bucket. The ICP layer sits on top of the bucket and makes those processes and everything that's happening with the data inside of the CDE transparent to all people on the project, as well as translates it into something that they can understand.
Absolutely. So we are now 11 minutes over our time and still amazingly have 50 of our 80 folks that are on. So, man, would you guys not have anything to do during the day or just don't talk to anyone? But thank you guys all so much for spending your time with us. Hopefully it was educational. Again, we did record most, if not all of our sessions. We'll save those online for our delegates. This 20-minute overview will be shared with everyone on YouTube. So feel free to share that with anyone. Please do, again, fill out that plus delta. Would love to know ideas for topics for next month, as well as other ways that we can improve this and figure out how to leverage all this virtual collaboration to still have engaging and productive conversations. So with that, thank you all so much for your time. And we will send the invite out here as we finalize the date and time for our next one in June, at the end of June. Awesome. Well, Bianca, unless there's anything you want to add on your end, we will adjourn this one and send out the follow-up email with, again, all the mental health information, everything else as well. So see some plus deltas coming in. Thank you. Please keep those coming in, and we'll talk to everyone soon.
Thanks, Nathan.
Right. Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, Nathan.
Thanks a bunch. Bye, everyone.
Thank you. Bye, everyone.